voice. Voice. Your voice.
Okay.
That's what you got to do. Ooh. Hi, guys. Here we are.
Hey.
Hey there. It's me and DT.
Hi, I'm DT. I'm the ruler of the universe. Yes, just like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, the mice rule. That's me.
So, DT, what's going to happen in the next 18 months?
Well, we have plans for a number of red flags. Kind of earthquakes and more fires and really very, very strange weather. And then we're going to have alien invasion, and we're going to use holograms beaming off of the atmosphere, because of that low frequency donut that we placed around the planet. We can use it as a movie screen, right? And we will did you ever see that movie, Independence Day? Well, we had that movie made for giving the Ravel, the expendable shadow, a kind of programmed kind of idea that we want them to be scared to obey everything we say.
Really? Well, that's very interesting, DT. Now, what's your business plan? I mean, why do you do this?
I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, but we don't know why we do this.
What?
Well, we've been doing it for so long, we have no idea why we do this.
You mean the banking, the wars,
Yeah, we have no idea, it's, and we're scared to tell the folks that, for the last, 600 years, we could have had pretty much everyone could be happy and have what they need, but we're scared that you're going to get upset and want to kill us. And there's not that many of us rats around, in charge.
Really? So, let's see. There's so DT, do you ever meditate?
Well, we don't call it meditation. We call it spiritual possession.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's kind of, devil worshipping kind of thing, and that's why we have sacrifices. It's kind of what we do.
Really? Is that really? Yeah.
Really is, we.
But you have no idea why you do it.
No, we've just been doing it for so long. We don't know any. It's like it's our comfort zone, and.
But when you do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome, not so much. It's.
Well, we no one really has ever given us any oversight or really even people don't even know that we rule the universe. That we rats, rule the universe. We kind of keep it down low. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Live chat. So where are you guys? 4 minutes and 43 seconds. So we were going to do a live guided meditation about what's going to happen in the next 18 months, right? And we're going to not only do it for the big picture, but for the individual picture, so I do it for you there, DT. I'll give you an insight on what's going to happen to you and your ilk.
Really? You do that for us?
Yeah, of course. I'm your Sensei Al Bob.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, come on. All you need to do is give my channel a little bit more support. Like maybe by the end of the week have 1,000 subscribers.
We can do that.
And maybe a check.
Oh, we can do that.
I'm not against money. Because I got things I want to do. I want to bring.
We can support your Humanities Artist Trust. We can do that.
Okay, just like other artists. We can. This is all about everyone going home. Not saying you guys, the hidden hand and the powers that shouldn't be and the sock puppets. It's not like you just have to come clean with everything you've done, and give like reparations, meaning to release all the technology that you've hidden, if curing every disease, appropriate nutrition, education, 0 point energy, security, real security, because there is.
Well, there really isn't any reason to be scared of your neighbors, because the Russians and the North Koreans and the Chinese and everybody else, they're all part of the hidden hand. Everyone's getting over, and, we're just scared that everybody's chattel will revolt and, off with their heads. And
well, back then, that was just another branding, right? You just got rid of Louis and Marie, but the same dudes were there. Hey, who showed up there? Good morning. Where are you? Where is good morning? Stacy. Where is the good morning? Where are you, Stacy? This is DT. DT rules the universe. South Australia. I used to live in Melbourne and Sydney and Broome and Adelaide. I lived in the Nookenbaugh, Christmas Creek, lived out there near, I was in Australia for 3 years, 77, 78, 79, came back in 80. I was with my wife, Donna Ann. And did you ever hear of the Circus Oz with Punch Hawks? We were part of that. How old are you, Stacy? Are you old enough to remember the 70s? Or were you born yet? Or are you older? Oh, wow. Very cool. I'll have to look it up. 31. Well, you're not too, So the interesting thing about your history, so how many times do you know that you've had martial law in your country? I was there in the 70s when the Queen showed up and the election between, the Labor and the Liberal Party. And the Queen came and everyone got off for a week for her. She came into Sydney and then went to Melbourne and Adelaide, and no one showed up for the Queen. And she got so pissed, she split. She was going to stay there through the election to make sure the Liberal Party won. And the Labor Party won, and they declared martial law. The Queen's representative stood up in your parliament, and he's the guy who wears the funny dress and has the scepter. And he says, with the authority of the Queen, I declare martial law. And that's kind of when your country kind of started going off the hook. I mean, it was always kind of off the hook, but and I was there when the barrier reefs were still alive. I was there before all the coal in the Nukumba hadn't even been tapped, and your air hadn't been totally soiled by that process. Did you ever see the movie The Last Wave? You should go see that. I was out at Christmas Creek, which is in the Northern Territories, and one of those storms, a wall of water came across a whole 20 square mile area. I lived with an Aboriginal tribe for a whole year, and studied. We located all their sacred sites so they wouldn't dig them up, and of course they were dug up. Did you ever go to not New Zealand, Tasmania? Did you ever hear the story of the last Aborigines in Tasmania? When I was there in the 70s, and in the museum there, they had the last Aboriginal stuffed, and her head had, she was shot between the eyes, and the back of her head was blown off, and she had a baby in her arms, and they stuffed it and had, stuffed that woman and her baby and had it in the museum. I'm sure they don't have that there now, but Australia was quite an interesting place in the mid 70s. Yeah, we went snorkeling. We went up to Broome, where they have the cultured pearls, and the women would dive for them, and that was like another planet. So is the cultured pearl industry still in Broome? Back to Eden. Hey, buddy. Yes, that was the folks that I kind of hung out with when I was there. But you know about Broome, right? So did you ever, my wife and I took the Greyhound. Are there still Greyhound buses there? Does Reginald Ansett still own all of transportation in Australia? Just like Rupert Murdoch owns all media in Australia? It was quite the interesting place when I was there. I really loved it. And I have this knack to go to places when they're at their amazing beautifulness and stay there for, whenever I travel, I don't go there for the weekend. I spend a year or two there, right? And I absorb everything about the place I visit, and try to do as much as I can totally. So when I leave, I don't go, oh, I wish I did that, right? And my wife and we traveled all from Sydney, well, actually from Canberra, from the capital, all the way down, Canberra, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth, then up to Broome, then to Alice Springs, and then over to Ayers Rock, and then down to the Nukumba, and we stayed with a tribe of Wallamajiri for about 6-8 months. And so we saw all of Australia. And when we took the bus, when they would stop at a station, which is like the closest thing that was even was a place where, the cows and the sheep and the stuff was at, and they'd have the post office and the general store. And the bus would stop there, and we'd have something to eat, and they'd gas the thing up. And then, we'd take off. And when the bus driver wanted to take off, if you weren't there, they'd take your bags off and leave you there. And the next bus wasn't like tomorrow, it was like a week or two later. So all those towns, my wife would stroll off and take pictures of things, and just wait a little, she'll be back. Oh no, it'll zoom. After the first time that happened, we kind of embraced it because it enabled us to see all these little towns and stations all through Australia. So we saw more of Australia than most Australians saw, And your country is a beautiful place, but it has been ravished by the corporate state, and Australia really, the Australian people are great people, but they're constantly talking about how, their roots are, they're criminals, right? And the thing about Australia was the people that they sent there weren't like the average pickpocket, but like the Queen Elizabeth, not Elizabeth, Victoria. Victoria's cousin was Jack the Ripper, and he was the royal family's surgeon. And so as long as he was cutting up prostitutes, it was no big deal. But once he started going after the middle class, they had to get rid of him. And they couldn't just capture him and say, yeah, we found Jack, here he is. He's the, Queen Victoria's cousin, the surgeon of the court. No, they put him on a boat and sent him to Australia. So virtually all of the people who were sent, the criminals, were rich people who was just sick fucks, right? And that's why all those major families who ruled Australia were all of those kind of sick fuck people, And that's why the corporate structure is so intense there, because it's a criminal enterprise. And if you go read David Icke, Stacy, have you read any of David Icke? He would be a good person to read. But you live in a beautiful, Stacy, what do you do in Australia? Let's see. Due to the Aborigines, immigration is pretty bloody bad. Yes, it sure is. Well, dream time is the spirit connection of the Aboriginal, right? And no matter how abused the Aborigines are by the imperial political structure there. So I was with a Aboriginal tribe that there were about, 400 of them. And then in the 60s, they found out that gold, iridium, titanium was on their land. And the mining guys just went out there and shot them all in the head. They didn't say, oh, we're going to move you someplace and give you some money. They just went out there and shot them in the head. And there were about 12 people who weren't there when that happened. Meaning they were all picking berries, or, they were somewhere else. And so that was what was left of the tribe. And they were called the Wallamajiri. And when the Australians wanted to have the Olympics in Sydney, people kind of remembered these kind of horrific things that were being done. And that's why I got to go up there and be an anthropologist with that tribe and locate their sacred sites and identify them. And if you go, Stacy, go to my blog spot. It's xratted.blogspot.com. And in that novel, there is a cut. There's 6 cuts there, and there's a cut. I think it's the second, third, or fourth cut that talks about my travels in Australia, and you might like those. And I would love to get feedback from you, Stacy, and you can get a hold of me at thedudeawake42@gmail. Okay. I'm a mom. Well, that's great. That's one of the best things a human being can do on this planet, is to be a mother. And, you know, if you're going to grow your own food, you should make yourself a little greenhouse and do raised beds. You know, make the dirt and control the environment that your food grows in, because the water and the air of your country is pretty foul, as is the whole planet's, right? So if you can control, you know, by having a greenhouse, the air and the water and the soil, then you'll have very good food. And the other thing, Stacy, if you're growing your own food, you have to do some homework on energetics. And there's a place in England or Scotland called Findhorn that was, you know, had ley lines up the kazoo. And the people who and it used to be a garbage dump, and they went there, cleaned it up, and they started growing food there, and they'd have like tomatoes the size of basketballs and super duper rich and everything. So the whole scene about you doing anything, Stacy, is intent, right? And because you live in Australia, Australia is one of the richest places in spirit. And even though they're Aborigines, and that's why they're so attacked, because they are spirit beings, right? And why the dingo was gotten rid of in Australia is that the dingo was the Aborigines' spirit animal, and it connected them to you know, their chi in the earth. And that's why the government went after the dingo in such a fierce way in the 90s. And I don't even know if there are any dingoes left. But when I was out back, I had some really, really cute, I had 2 dingo little pups that grew up to be great dogs. I'm a dog boy. And if you go look at my channel, you know, that you're right here on, and go look at, you know, the over 500 shows that I've done, I did a number of shows on the Aborigines, and the picture for the show is me standing there with a bunch of Aborigines in the outback, right? And I'm wearing a shirt over my head, and I've got shorts and army boots on. And the 2 Aboriginal old guys are like wearing cowboy hats and cowboy clothes and bare feet. And then there's 3 grandmas and 1 mom. And that mom had that baby without having a daddy, meaning she was like the Virgin Mary, and that baby was like Jesus Christ. And you look at that photograph and you can see the halos around the baby and the mom. So go just kind of thumb through them until you come across a picture of a bunch of Aborigines and me. And my dingo, he is chewing on my boot, and he kept always after me spiritually, always trying to drag me into dream time. And so if you find that picture, and then you can go to that show I did, and it'll be a story about me being with the Aborigines. So go check that one out. And check whatever, you know, like just flip through those. Every show I do is different, right? And so here we are, 3 people, and it's 23-3. They're a magic number, right? So there are many dingoes left. Good. Many children definitely lessened the population at that time. Yep. And that's the problem about Australia. It's an amazingly powerful place, spiritually, you know, everything about it. Like I said, go see the movie. Go on Netflix or however you watch movies, and go watch The Last Wave. And there are a couple other movies about the white culture and the Aboriginal culture made in the 60s, 70s, and 80s that are quite astounding. So, okay. So what I was going to do was do a guided meditation tonight, right? And let's see. The Last Wave. Yep. And like I said, if you see that one, or you go on Google and say Last Wave, any other movies like it, there's 3 or 4. But the Last Wave is oh, and Message from Down Under. That's a very good book. And that book was written a few years after my experiences in Australia. And that book is basically exactly what happened to me. So if you go to xratted.blogspot.com, you will read the novel about me going to Australia and my experiences with the Aborigines and how they contacted me before I even knew I was going to go see them. And I was in an airplane, going from Hawaii to Sydney and over, the Indian, about 1,000 miles to the southern coast, or the eastern. What coast would that be? I guess it would be the eastern coast of Australia, the one facing Hawaii. They came to me in the bathroom of the airplane because I was watching. I pushed the button and the water was swirling down the toilet clockwise, and then we went over the nadir of the southern and northern hemispheres, and so the water was doing this, and it slowed down and went the other way, and it put me into a psychic state. And like I said, if you go to xratted.blogspot.com, you will be able to read that novel about that experience. So I think you'll like it. So, and you'll see my reading style technique. So, still 3 people, 26 minutes into it and 56 seconds. So I think we shall start our guided meditation, okay? And we're going to do a remote view of the next 18 months. And we're going to look at the big picture, meaning the whole world, what's going to happen. And we're going to look at your individual 18 months, what's going to happen with you in the next 18 months. So everyone get in a comfortable position, sit in your chair, loosen up all your joints, lie down, sit down, but put yourself in a safe, comfortable position so you don't, lean out, because what's going to happen is your conscious mind is going to be focused on your breath. So that little squirrel in your head in the metal cage of the Rolodex of your mind will be totally occupied with your breath, because your mind isn't you. Mind is just a Rolodex of information. It isn't, but see, your body, this thing, right? This is just a bag of water, right? We're 90-something% water with a few trace elements and a bit of skin and bone, right? And it is our avatar, and our soul is our consciousness, our conscious free will. And why we are here in the Luciferian illusion, the whole universe that we are existing in, that's 16 billion years old, is the Luciferian illusion of material world. Because the only thing that exists is love's co-creation, right? And that's where we're going to, that's where when we go into state, that is the only reality, right? So what you do is you're sitting down, you're lying down, you don't cross anything, and you, get yourself comfy, close your eyes, you lay your head back on the seat or on the pillow in the bed or the couch, and you breathe 20% more. 20% more. Fill those lungs up, fill them up, and then breathe out 30% more. And you breathe out 30% more because then it's a lot easier to breathe in the next 20%. And when you do this, the only way you can do that is to focus your conscious mind, the squirrel in your head, on breathe 20%. When you do that, you're not thinking about anything else. You're not thinking about the laundry list. You're not thinking about what you got to do. You're not thinking about the guilt you have. You're not thinking about the person you hate or the person you love or the this or the that or why can't I have this. You don't think about any of that because all you can do is think about breathing in that. This is the main tool to go into state, to go into meditation. State is consciousness, And back in the day, Buddha was standing by the side of the road, and a traveler went by him and looked at him and go, "Whoa!" And there was Buddha in his total luminescent, photonically illuminated, beatific state. And the traveler, "Wow, man, who are you, God?" And Buddha said, "No." "Well, man, what are you, a magician? What are you, man?" And Buddha replied, "I am awake." And see, the fact that we live in this illusionary, weird world of meat puppet materialism, we are unconscious. We are just stuck in this illusion, right? And, that was what they were trying to get at in the movie of The Matrix. But in reality, we are in this state. And the only way we can get out of that state of illusion is to breathe deep and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. As you're breathing in that 20% and you're breathing out that 30%, what you're doing is you're lifting your diaphragm up. It opens up your lungs. It allows you to, the little aorta, the sacs in your lungs to open up and the little cilia to let go of the goo. And what that allows is when you breathe in that air, at 20%, you're breathing in the prana. That is the life force of love's co-creation. That is a photonic light. And that's the illumination, right? And back in the day, you read the Bible, and in the beginning, everything was dark, and then there was the Word, and the Word was, let there be light, right? Now that was the crashing explosion of the Big Bang. And that Big Bang came from Lucifer, who was the head angel of the hegemony of heaven. And he was so pissed off when love's co-creation, his creator, didn't bother with him anymore because, Lucifer was the perfect angel. He had everything down. He was running heaven like, like an oiled machine, and so love wasn't really paying attention, What love was looking at was this new thing, this conscious free will. Now, within the hegemony of love's co-creation, everything had to follow the hegemony. But the conscious free will could do whatever the heck it wanted. And yet it chose to co-create with love. And love got so jazzed by that. So, wow, that Lucifer got so pissed off, like a petulant little child, and he caused, a war in heaven and broke the hegemony and destroyed that process, right? And that process was destroyed by a gigantic Big Bang. And Lucifer, the illuminated one, created, and then there was light, created this universe. Now, this universe is small potatoes compared to infinity of love's co-creation. It's only been around 16 billion years, That's nothing compared to infinity, right? So Lucifer has been going on. And so when this occurred, the conscious free will was put into a place, the Garden of Eden, to kind of keep it. It was a new thing. It kind of needed a vehicle to have experiences, to get, the hang of things. And that was the Garden of Eden, where, everything was fine. Everything was balanced. Everything was as it should be. And so Lucifer came in as the snake and basically tempted not Eve, but Adam. Because Adam was, Eve was like the mayor of the town. And Adam was like comic relief. He was just a chucklehead, right? As men still are. Men are just, you just have to shake your head when you look at the male of the species of Homo sapiens sapien, right? And women, they give birth. And, women, because of certain environmental things that are occurring, women, just like that Aboriginal woman that I lived in that tribe in 1978, she basically procreated her child without a man because she was pregnant. She was there before we showed up. The only two guys were in their 90s. And she was pregnant, she didn't show pregnancy, but she, we were there maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and she was pregnant, and she was in her 30s, and she had gone to Melbourne and got a nursing thing, and she came back to her tribe because everybody was old and she was going to take care of them. So she, she was like I wouldn't say nurse practitioner because she was an Aborigines, but she was educated as a nurse practitioner. She was a smart person. She was, had it all. She had her little doctor's bag. So she kind of, realized that she, was pregnant, and she, got a ride to the closest medical facility about 150 miles away and went to a doctor who was the doctor that she kind of worked for, who was in the Aboriginal, land whoop-de-doo, who was taking care of the Aborigines. And he checked her out and said, "Oh, yeah, you're pregnant." How'd that happen? There's nobody out there. When did you see a guy? She goes, "I didn't. I don't know where this came from." And so that was she inseminated herself. And this guy was pretty smart, and he had read a number of papers where this was happening in other animals, and because of the change of certain environmental characteristics. And in Australia, there are a number of animals that where the female of the species is self-procreating, self-inseminating. And if you go into, if you were to Google that one, there will be a lot of papers that will show up, and it'll start showing that a number of humans, Homo sapiens sapiens, are doing this around the world because of a lot of reasons, and they don't know why particularly, but they're narrowing it down to environmental reasons. Anyway, so this woman had, and she had that baby not in 9 months, but in 5 months. And the baby didn't come out like this. The baby came out, like 10 pounds. And if you look at that picture, that baby was, less than 4 weeks old. And it looked like he was 2-year-old. By the time we left, he was running around. And he was Jesus. He had a halo. I remember one time this bird was kind of gotten by one of the dingoes, and dingoes out there, they were very, I can't even explain it, but anyway, they weren't like dogs. You could train them, but they were like, they had to bond with you. Then they were very trainable, right? And they were training you. Because my dingo was training me. But anyway, this dog, brought either brought this dead bird into where we were kept out, and I was sent there by the government of Australia, and I had a 16 millimeter movie camera, and I had case of 35 millimeter, like 400 rolls of 35 millimeter film, and they gave me a Nikon with two nice lenses and a motor drive, and a strobe. And so my wife, she pictures with her Leica and kept her own film, and would do change the film out, and we had a changing bag, and I would take the film out and put them in these canisters and put them in this lead-lined bag and tape it up, and then someone who was going to go to the post office, 200 miles away, would take that, send it back to the home office. And I had filmed corroborees, which are sacred ceremonies, and we would go walk about to sacred sites that I was sent there to identify on a top map. And then I would film this guy doing, and we found 12 sites, and everyone had a red Samsonite suitcase buried, and he would go turn the dirt and pull the suitcase out and open it up, and inside the suitcase there would be sticks and string and like dirt of different colors and feathers, and there was a little cup, and he would take the different colors of dirt, urinate in the cup and the dirt, and turn it into mud of different colors, and he'd put it on his face and make a mask and put feathers in it, and he'd have this mask on his face. And then he would go into ceremony, and he would use sticks to talk to the ants, and he would also use other dynamics to talk to the other spirit animals, and he would tie the sticks together, and it would turn into an animal, like a goanna, a dingo, lots of koala, lots of interesting other spirit animals. And I had my Boax 16 millimeter, camera making a film, and I would film it. Then I put the, film in a can and put it in the lead bag and send it back to the home office. And those guys came, right? And they were the experts on the Aborigines. They came from Adelaide. And they would come, and they came in these big Land Rovers. They didn't give us a car. We had to take a bus to get there. They came up with a Land Rover and tents and everything. And how did you, and we're out in the middle of nowhere, no buildings. We're sleeping on the dirt. All the guys had for us for camping gear was a Walt Disney Mickey Mouse sheet and a pillow. And that my wife and I slept on for 6 months, right? And out there, the insect in Australia, the red-backed spider, the ones in Melbourne that you have to always check the toilets for because if they bite you in the ass, you're dead in 3 minutes. Well, they had every kind of bug and snake out there, like coral snakes, and you're bit, you're dead in 3 minutes, and you're like 500 miles to the closest guy with an EpiPen, right? And so the only way you could protect yourself from not getting bit up, and out there they had so many mosquitoes and flies, it was unfriggin' believable. When we first got there, I kind of understood this, so we changed our diet from cheeseburgers and soda to lettuce and water for the week before we showed up there. And then once we got there, we only ate what they ate, right? And luckily we did that because the white people who would come by they would be, when we first got there, I remember, noticing that I had 40 or 50 flies on my body at any time, going in my ears, going in my eyes, going up my nose. But when I just ate what the Aborigine ate, within a week or two, no bug came near me. And that's what kept us safe. We just ate what they ate. We didn't eat any packaged food. We didn't eat any of that, right? we just ate. And I don't know if you know about this. So, out there, people who live in those underground cave things, right? Well, those things are all over the outback. And there's a ton of water in the outback. And what it is like if you're looking straight out, out into the outback, it looks like a desert. But if you walk about out there, you'll find these little Grand Canyons, but narrow, 20 feet to 100 feet wide. And there's water, and it's not like a water ditch. It's like that water is super deep, like 1,000 feet down, and super pure. And, they're digging up all this coal and minerals out of Australia. But the real, most valuable thing Australia has is water, because they have these deep trenches that go to the center where water comes from. The water doesn't come from the sky. It comes from the earth, right? And why we blew up Libya is that Muammar Gaddafi drilled these deep, deep, deep wells into that water reservoir, like thousands of feet down, and brought it up and turned his country into a Garden of Eden, and gave everyone a house and feed and food and money. And the only reason we went after Muammar Gaddafi is that he didn't want to take U.S. Treasury notes anymore. He wanted either euros or gold for his oil. And that's why we took him out. That's why we took Saddam Hussein out. And that's why we took Mr. Syria out, Bashar. And so what Australia has in the most valuable thing is water. And by digging up all that coal, when those big rain monsoons come, it drools that coal, pollution into those water reservoirs, and it's poisoning that deep water, which is more valuable than any coal or any mineral. And they're doing that on purpose. They want to destroy that water. And that is one of the biggest problems of Australia, is that the powers that shouldn't be there want to destroy it, period. Just eat it up. Do everything it can. Mistreat the Aborigines, mistreat the people, the Australian white folk, the citizens get a raw deal, And, the age you are, what you're experiencing, you think is normal. You should kind of go back to your history and look at the period of the Gilded Age, between the 1790s and the 1890s, because Australia is a different place. And you should also go look at Pine Gap and, Wall Missile Range, and see all of the craziness, that's up there. And have you ever been, Stacy, have you ever been up to Ayers Rock? I don't know if you can, when I went there, there was this like little motel there, and the bus would stop there and they had the little tour and everything. But that place is so weird because you can walk up the sides of Ayers Rock. It has its own gravitational field. And when you get on top, Ayers Rock's as big as New York City, but it's, 2,200 feet off the floor of the outback there. And it's a gigantic rock, the kind of rock you kick when you're walking down a trail. That's what it is. It's like that rock fell out of the sky. It's not like a mountain or something. Well, those films are now, at the federal government of Australia, because that's who I work for. And I sent those suckers back to, the Home Office. We were under contract to do what we were doing. Now, my wife, she took her own 35 millimeter stills of that time, but she had her own aesthetic. She was shooting what she was shooting. I was being an anthropologist, so I, was documenting things, right? And they said that the Aborigines didn't have a written language. Oh, the guys who were the quote unquote experts who showed up said, "Oh, the Aborigines are like children; they're innocent. We have to take care of them." Well, those folks were the most amazingly sophisticated people I ever knew. They could do time travel, space travel without any, they could go from here to there without any kind of truck or car or airplane. I mean, these people were, and that's why what was truly amazing, this tribe was nearly basically wiped out, and they had no animosity for the white people who did it. They actually felt sorry for them because these people were existing in dream time. Have you heard of that term, dream time? The stories that I put on John Birmingham's channel, I called them dream time. And why I call my channel Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob, it is the adjective and noun of the place, dream time, right? And so I called my thing Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. But dream time is a place. It's where you can, when we go into state, which you are right now, I got you breathing, right? You should still be breathing that extra 20% and out 30%, because now you're, and I'm, as a griot, telling you this story. So it's totally distracting you from what the squirrel is saying. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. And I've taken you totally out of that, all two of you. And I keep doing these because you'd think this is pretty amazing, and there'd be hundreds, if not thousands, of people watching this. There will be. Now, thousands of people, when you look at views, thousands of people do watch this, but at their own leisure, right? And that's why they're up on my channel, right? And that's why I've done almost 600, if I haven't done more. And that's why I ask everyone to, hey, I give you permission to put these on thumb drives, put them on your hard drive, put them so they don't disappear, because, YouTube is owned by the powers that shouldn't be, the hidden hand. And at this time, they are observing this channel. They're observing us, because they realize that in this next 18 months, things are going to change. A lot of stuff's going to go down. And it's a rebranding. It's a point in time where they rebrand, the political, social, cultural structure. But they've been doing this now for 1.6 billion years. And we're, after 1965, we started to go into the Aquarian Age. 2012, we are into the Aquarian Age. And between 2012 and 2075 is that crossover period. Yes, we're all the way into the Aquarian Age, but the Piscean Age still has this entropy on us. That's why we have wars. So right now, we're not supposed to be killing each other. We're not supposed to be having wars. We're not supposed to be doing any of this stuff. But that's why we have doubled down. And that's why 9/11 happened in 9/11, because it was a year before 2012. And no, that was 9/11 and in 2001. So they did it, 11 years before 2012. And so now we're fully into the Aquarian Age. Things should change. And so there on YouTube, there are a ton of New Age folk who are kind of talking about this, but it's like, so Plato had this thing called his treatise on the cave. And he said that humanity's experience is as if we were living in a cave for all our existence. And the opening is behind us. And the light of the outside world is behind us and shining past us. And our shadow is put on the back wall of the cave. And because we're only been looking that way and seeing that shadow, we view the shadow as the only reality there is. And that was his metaphor for what I talk about, Luciferian illusion of materialism, right? And so Lucifer is the illuminated one, but the light he has is incandescent, whereas love's co-creation, or God, because I don't like to use the word God or Lord. Lord means Baal. Baal is a demon of the Mesopotamians. And God is again another type of demon from the Sumerians, and that's because there's this hegemony, this group of demigods, and the pagans, the Greeks and the Romans had all these demigods, and the head hierarchy, and the pecking order down, and then when they switched to Christianity, the Holy Roman Empire, they said, wow, we can really monetize people's souls now. We own their souls. The Christianity owns your soul. And go to a guy named Jordan Maxwell. He will just define this really well. Go to another person, Joseph P. Farrell, another great scholar, right? And go to these guys who the last video I did describing the digital computer, and I just ran their YouTube, right? And so if you go to my, film, movies, you see all the shows I've done, and then if you go to my playlist, there are all these different interesting people that you should go take a look at. Okay, let's see. What else is people saying here? Back to Eden says, don't worry about humanity by the following the grace of God. One finds, yes, exactly. Holy path, light. Yep. Mm-hmm. And that light is the photonic light of God. And again, I don't like that's why I use the term love's co-creation, because it's the relationship. The only reality is love's co-creation, because everything has to be made in love's co-creation. And within the construct of what we call God is love's co-creation. Everything else is an illusion, a Luciferian illusion. And that's why what happens in this world is really, we're in a sandbox. We're just here to learn, because our conscious free will is like a grain of sand of God, and all of us, what I call all our relations, make up love's co-creation. And the only way we can pop this bubble of Luciferian illusion is when we all come together in love's co-creation, right? And that comes within every day and every way, taking the piece of the earth and making it stronger, and experiencing the great authority of love's co-creation, right? In the sense of Father Sky, Mother Earth. And that's the connection, right? And in Christianity, we have this strange trinity. And again, the guys at the Council of Nicaea were just businessmen, and they were trying to fit their pagan religion into Christianity, right? And Christ basically said, hey, I don't want any hierarchy. And women, you look at all the paintings of Jesus up on the cross, who's around him but women? His cadre, the boys, are nowhere to be seen, because they're, I'm scared, right? And, listen, his number one boy turned him in, and his number two boy denounced him. Oh, this guy used to be with Jesus. I never knew him. I don't know him. Oh, and then he cuts the ear off of the guy. But the girls were right around Jesus praying with him, right? And they knew the story, Magdalene and his mother, they were right there. They knew the story. The women were the power of the church, and that's why men got rid of them. That's why in the council I say, get rid of those girls. They have no power. They don't even exist. They're not worth anything, right? Of course, they give birth to the species. Men are just morons. Yes, Jesus didn't want Christianity. Why? What separated historically, not spiritually or energetically, but historically, that separated Jesus from any of the other chuckleheads out there in the desert doing the 40 days and 40 nights things, like, John the Baptist. I mean, everyone thought he was going to be the dude. But the two things that did it so when Jesus went to meet John the Baptist, he washed John's feet. I mean, he understood that the person who has the authority gives. Why do we give to others? Why? Because seeing others happy, others taken care of, others protected, make us happy, make us protected, right? I mean, why do I do all of this? Because it makes you happy, and not just happy. It gives you this doorway to see that you're not a piece of dirt. It gives you a doorway to see that everything the Luciferian illusion tells you is incorrect, because the only truth is love's co-creation. And Jesus was love's co-creation. We get into semantics when we get into history and politics and all of that, right? And spirituality should never be mixed up with that, because all of that is just banking. And this is the number one reason why Jesus got nailed to the cross. He was the only guy who went into the temple and threw the money changers out. Everyone else took the envelope. Everyone took their cut. And that's how the powers that shouldn't be get over. They give everyone a crumb. The Roman Empire had the, bread and circus to buy off the people. Here we have fast food and flat screen TVs, It's the same thing. And we're at the same place. Nothing has changed, except there are these opportunities of these trends of temporal energetic space, right? And we're at one right now. We have this 18-month little opportunity where instead of being reset into another 900-year dark ages or some great war, because all the great wars in the last 500 years were right when people were ready to change it. World War I, definitely. World War II, definitely. People didn't want to fight any more wars. 9/11, people didn't want, why? We've been at war for 16 years, never-ending wars. We've been, since the Civil War, the United States has been at war. Civil War, then the war with the Indians, then the Spanish War, Boer War, then all of these things that England, why were we in China during the Opium Wars? If you really study history, you start to go, And there are a lot of really, like I said, David Icke, Joseph P. Farrell, and Jordan Maxwell. Just those three will make you scratch your head, because these guys are scholars. They really pull up information. And then there's a book called what's his name's Book of American History. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff in this little YouTube and Google world. And the sad thing, if you ever read 1984, our hero Winston works for this thing called the Ministry of Truth, and he's constantly rewriting history. One day it was this, the next day it was this, and there was this. This is when Winston kind of goes, "Whoa!" He's like rewriting history as it goes along, and this one government has been at war with this government, and this other government is this government's allies, and then overnight it switches. Now that our enemy, who's been our enemy for 100 years, is now our ally, and we're at war with the guy who was our ally for 100 years. And it was like that. And the next day, because in all, they rewrit all history, everyone looks at it, oh yeah, it's always been that way, right? And we call it the Mandela effect. Go look that one up. And it's supposed to be a temporal whoop-de-doo. But no, it's just that somebody's rewriting history all the time. So all of this stuff is coming to a head in the next 18 months. And the hidden hand, yes, my hidden hand of DT here, they feel they have to, basically have another red flag scenario, which will probably be alien invasion. We'll have, why do you think they made that movie Independence Day, right? And every time good example, in America, we have this thing, No Child Left Behind. What did that process do? But left every child behind. The IQ and, level and intelligence level, since George W. did that some 10 years ago, the kids' intelligence has dropped 10%. The general population intelligence has dropped almost 30% since 9/11. Since the advent of the smartphone, human beings across the planet have an attention span less than a goldfish. Back in the day, during the Civil War, when they started figuring out how to measure that, attention span of your average person in the United States was 20 minutes. They could, do something without their mind wandering for 20 minutes. And then the radio came and it kind of, was cut down to like 15 minutes. TV came, it got dropped down to 5 minutes. The internet and smartphones came. It's now the goldfish's attention span is 9 seconds. The average human being's attention span is 7 seconds. Anyway, so you are breathing deep. Your conscious mind is totally focused on your breath. And I've been telling you all of this stuff as your griot, telling you a story, just kind of weaving this little web of distraction away from Luciferian's illusion, right? And I'm just giving you these little patches for light to come through. And what kind of light it is? It's the light of when you are breathing in that 20% and out that 30%, you're breathing in the prana. And that's the life force of love's co-creation. And every day and every way you take the piece of the earth and you make it stronger. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, as was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. That prayer is one of the strongest prayers on the planet, and it cuts across every religion. That prayer, the Muslims use it, the Buddhists use, everybody uses that prayer within the context of their own cultural dynamic. But that prayer is in everybody's lexicon. And when times get tough, that is the prayer that people, it comes from their heart. It's a heart prayer, right? And so prana comes from Father Sky, from our Father, who art in heaven. Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. So that means that we live in a world of abundance, right? And we live in a world of forgiveness, right? We live in a world without violence. Give us our daily bread and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. It was in the beginning, at the very beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. And what does that mean? Is that when Lucifer got so pissed off and broke heaven, and we had the big bang, it didn't just shoot, that energy that away, and it just keeps going. No, we do not live in a linear world. That big bang was like that. As it was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be. Meaning, all is the Alpha and the Omega. Bingo, right? And when we illuminate with the photonic light, and that photonic light comes from the prana, we breathe it in, right? And as we're breathing in that 20%, it lifts our diaphragm, opens up our lungs. The photonic light hits those little cilia. The blood comes through our heart, through our lungs, and that iron-rich blood flows through the veins, not blub, blub, blub. It swirls. It goes clockwise, and inside of that swirl goes counterclockwise, and inside of that swirl, it goes clockwise, but 90 degrees. And what is that? It is a alternating current, photonic scalar generator. And now, when you look at our nervous system electrically, it's, when they measure it with their devices, it's on a Hertzian XY two-dimensional frame. But the scalar of our heart, that's why our heart is so intense, it is the central processing unit of love's co-creation, God's love and forgiveness, right? And scalar energy is not 2 dimensions, it's 16 dimensions. And that's, so when people, try and quote the Bible and tell me what God, God talked to me. No, I'm sorry. You've been, what God meant in the Bible, really. So do you read Hebrew? So do you know that Hebrew, each letter has a number and each word has a algorithm, and that the Torah, the Old Testament, is basically a computer code? So if you studied Kabbalah, which is the ancient part of studying the Torah, right? You would realize, and that's what they teach you in Kabbalah, that this is all math, right? And that the New Testament is just like a comic book, just made up to fit the business plan of the Roman pagans who in the Council of Nicaea, set all the dates onto pagan astrology. And all the saints are pagan gods. And the stuff is right. So, your Sensei Al-Bab, your griot, was brought up to be a Catholic priest. I went to a seminary, and because I had the love of Jesus in my heart, and I was not worried about theology or dogma, I was worried about poor people. I got a lot of, I got vamoose because I was from a certain family where I was supposed to be a rocket scientist for the Pope and thinking about money, not the needs of the poor, where the last should be first. I was thinking of the last, because I had grown up in New York and I had seen great poverty, and I saw what touched my heart the most, because as a little peanut, my grandma, we would go to church every day. And I had a godfather who was a cardinal in St. Patrick's. So I would run around all the underground things in St. Patrick's, and, they'd show me all the little secrets because I was supposed to be one of them with the big hats. Why do you think I'm wearing this hat? And when I finally went to and I was schooled as a young lad, because every time, all my brothers and sisters went to Catholic school. I went to Catholic school, and I questioned this nut, and I so freaked her out. She beat me unconscious, broke my jaw and the orbit of this eye, and that's why this eye doesn't work too good. And pretty much with the powers that be, I either am their golden boy or they want to freaking kill me, right? And because just before they do kill me or try, they kind of hold back because they go, oh, yes, we still need him, don't we? And I'm just a lucky bastard, And so Jesus, God doesn't speak to me. I feel God in my heart. I don't believe in anything, but I have faith of that because I feel Jesus and love's co-creation. And that's Jesus, is love's co-creation. And that's the dynamic of Jesus. Jesus is God. Jesus is love's co-creation. And it is a theologic quandary. I studied theology in many, many colleges as a scholar. And the bottom line that where I got to was that everything's a mystery, because the physical world we experience is an illusion. And the only truth there is love's co-creation, which is God, which is Jesus, which is all of those component parts, because we that have a free soul, that have that conscious free will that Lucifer doesn't have. And he's so jealous and pissed off. He's keeping everyone in jail in this, mystery, illusion, material world that doesn't exist. Now, the bottom line is that everyone has to get on the bus and go home to love's co-creation, including Lucifer. Because if he's left behind, he's just going to be making trouble. His heart has to be forgiven. Now, love's co-creation is constantly forgiving everyone, and that's what he came here to do, to manifest in this bread puppet, this bag of water, that love, and show everyone that we are that love. He was leading by example. Now we have to lead in every day and every way. We have to take the piece of the earth of love's co-creation and lead by example. Now, I'm a homeless guy. I'm living here. This was a school I bought back in the day. I used my skill set. I had many tools in my toolbox, and so I could, make a pretty, comfy living day to day. But I spend it all and have a good time. And the last, between 2005 and 2015, I worked, in the corporate world for the desperate lawyers, and lived a total hedonist life. I swam in a swimming pool of chocolate mousse. Every day I had 3 unbelievably rich person meals and just had a good old time. And I can't say that I wish I'd known. I gained almost 200 pounds in that period. And by that, I got diabetes, neuropathy, Charcot legs, diabetic eyes, aplastic kidney, all those things. I toxed myself and ended dying in a plate of spaghetti, right? I've died 6 times. When I was born, when I was 10, when I was 14, 16, 20, how old was I? 32, and when I was 50 something. And every time I died, I'd go out of body. The first, when I was an infant, I just barely remember that. But I remember dying. Because I had the umbilical wrapped around my head, and the moron doctors were trying to pull me out. I was a breech baby, and they were trying to pull me out with salad tongs. And this savior of a saint of she was the first female OB/GYN in New York State, and she was in that operating room observing. And the guy who was head of obstetrics was about to kill me and murder my mom by ripping the umbilical out of her uterus, and she would have bled to death. And she pushed him out of the way, pushed me back into my mother's uterus, turned me around, put her hands in there, and took the umbilical around my neck and eased me out. So I was a blue baby because I was, and I can remember that. I remember being in that incubator, and I remember my grandma and this doctor, Teresa, protecting me from these moron doctors, right? And that's when I really said, and from that time on, from that till I was 10, every time on my birthday, I would get, strep throat, tonsillitis, pneumonia, right? Until I was 10 when I died. And when I came back, they had tied me up like Hannibal Lecter. And I was in my own poop and urine, and they had a mask over me. And I had died, and they left me that way, and I came back. And I was like, wow. And my parents, they were off at the beach. And I was thinking about, that's it. I am never getting freaking sick ever. Never, ever, never. No, I'm not getting sick. Period. Never been sick since. Right? And I've been exposed to a lot of things because I worked in hospitals and never got sick. I broke a lot of things, but I never got sick. When I did get sick, I didn't let these guys, they wanted to do open heart surgery and chop my legs off. I said, not going to happen. Luckily, I came back from being dead. They had the thing in my mouth, and and I had been an EMT, so I knew how to take that device out of my own throat. And I said,
Get away from me.
you know. Luckily, that lawyer who really needed me was right there. And I said, hey, come here. Sue these guys if they even touch me. Get me out of here. And it took me 3 weeks to get myself to the place where I could help him. And he was nice enough to put me in his nice little house on the Florida Keys with a bunch of people taking care of me for about 2 months, where I got to a place where I could inch my way back to where I am now. Meaning my charcoal legs, the little bones in my left foot, because I broke my ankle when I was a teenager, kind of dissolved. So I have no bones connecting my ankle to my foot. They wanted to chop that off, right? Anyway, so all the reason I'm still here is because of love's co-creation and my faith in that love and my prayer every friggin' day, and I go into state where you guys are right now. The 5 of you guys are breathing that 20% in. You're illuminating your body with that prana, and you're grounding it in your chi. So that's chi, Mother Earth. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for our sinners, now and in the hour of our death. Amen. And when you bring the energy of that photonic light of the prana and ground it into your chi, you can do anything. And I want you to see right now your cellular structure, your mitosis, that cell splitting, right? When that happens, the cell splits like a zipper, right? And the RNA comes in, and you see the mitochondria, which are like these little lightning bolts around it, right? And that energetics of the prana, because you're breathing it in so much deeper, is really energizing. And when that cell splits, right there is the miracle of love's co-creation, where in that cell, of that mitosis, you are creating photonic light. And that's the light, not the Luciferian incandescent light, because the Luciferian incandescent light makes shadows. Photonic light of God's love's co-creation is photonic. There are no shadows, right? And see how there are no shadows right here? My skin, that's photonic light. But see how below it there are shadows? So that's it right there. You saw it, right? And you're now in state, and you're looking in your cellular structure, and you're seeing the mitosis and the mitochondria all energized by the prana, creating the photonic light, which you're taking to your imaginary mirror. And that's where you have REM sleep. You have rapid eye movement, and when you dream, dreamy dreamland, in dream time, you see the dreams like a movie, and your eyelids are the movie screen, right? And when you project the photonic light through that screen, you can project that light into your subconscious. And your subconscious isn't a scary place where the monsters live. No, it is your shamanic library, right, of your Akashic records, right? And that is the record of love's co-creation. Everything that love has co-created is in the Akashic records. And you can see, and in the beginning, it is now, ever shall be, world without. That's the Akashic records. You get that book. So you walk into your library, and in front of you is the big fireplace, and there's the internal flame in it, right? And to the left are these nice lounge chairs for guests who will come down the chimney, just like Santa, but any other entity you want to see. And you want to see Jesus down the chimney, bingo, you can have a nice cup of tea, And over to the right are the 9 doors, and that's all the different occult places, right, that exist in the illusionary world. But to understand the illusion of Lucifer, you have to go to that place and observe. Now, you don't really want to go through that door. It's like knock on the door and the devil answering. No. There are other ways to go there. There are back doors, so there are ways you can go there and see what's going on. to get the 411 so you can go, oh, I don't have to be played by that illusion, because that's what Lucifer is the elusive, the great trickster, the great liar, right? So to understand those lies, those illusions, you have to get the 411 on it. And the only way you can safely do that is with, Jesus Christ at your side. And there are other guides you can take with you. And so there's the fireplace, there's the nice lounge chairs, and in front of that is your reading table, which is illuminated by Love's Co-Creation's photonic light. So there are no shadows, right? And to your left is your librarian, and all the walls and everything, they look like bricks, but those are big books. Librarian brings you your Akashic record, and next to your librarian to the left is your animal totem, like me, a griot, right? Who will, you get the book, you see the creatures, our sensory system, it's what we base our thinking we know what's going on, is 0.0005% of what's going on in Love's co-creation. The other 99.99905% is Love's co-creation. But because it is like the veil is in the way of, Lucifer's illusion is in the way of that, we can't see it because we're limited by our limited senses, right? But back in the day, they used to call it the ether. And then in the 19th century, the physicists called it the vacuum. And now we, with string theory, call it dark matter. It's all the same thing. Basically, in the Bible, and in the beginning, all things were black, dark, right? That's black matter, dark matter, right? Darkness isn't bad. What is darkness? If you go look in physics books, darkness is the presence of every frequency of light, energy, Love's co-creation. Light, this incandescent light that shows shadows, is only one frequency, right? And that's why it's an illusion. So we had 5 people, 2 people bailed, because we're going into some really interesting, deep things that could basically challenge your worldview, right? And we haven't even started, right? We're just here in the library. So you to your left is your librarian, your animal totem, and behind you is your guardian angel who always has your back. Because when you see things in your Akashic record, you may get scared because you don't understand, Now your animal totem, who's your griot, will tell you a story, just like I've been telling you a story, that sideways you will start to understand things. And like tonight, after we finish this, you will, hour or two later, you'll kind of take a nap, or you'll go have lunch, or you go have breakfast or dinner, or go to work or whatever. And then at some point you'll go, wow, what I've been saying will kind of hit you in a way that is coming from you, from here. You will feel it here, not up here, not in the squirrel cage, but here, the central processing unit of Love's co-creation, your heart. And then where your real, brain matter is in your gut. I have a gut feeling about this. That's because in your gut, in your stomach and then in your intestines, you have like 1 billion or more little creatures in there that actually can think, react, respond. And, it's a neural net in your gut. And that gut it's like a radio, it's not coming out of here, it's coming out of here to God, your gut, because your heart is connected through your vagus nerve, right? So if you study anatomy, you will see how God made us and how it's a miracle. And if you don't look at the body as like some Volkswagen that you can just take off a hubcap and put something else in its place, when you see it as the miracle that Love's co-creation made through that little process of two people coming together, and bringing the egg and the sperm together, and then having mitosis, right? And so basically the sperm and the egg are somewhat irrelevant. All they are is like, when you're at a race to the right, it's the cell dividing. And that is the real presence of love's co-creation, right? And people go, oh, well, you should be able to have an abortion before the heartbeat. Sorry, kids, no. Soon as that occurs. But the real problem is that that's a miracle, and everything else that people go on about the issue of abortion is the illusion, Because first of all, men shouldn't be able to tell women what to do with their body, first of all. Second of all, birth control, right? When I went to school and learned birth control from monks, the Marinols, and I learned it around 9. And they were all scientific, they were talking about everything, because these guys I had a great group of monks that, I had 8 monks. I was put in this monastery as a youngster, and they had all these guys, and the Marinols were the first guys to get rid of all the churchy stuff, the collar, and they wore like, what do you call those things? Turtlenecks, right? And they would have jackets, and they were like very cool. They were the cool priests, right? And the nuns, same thing. They got rid of the monkey suit, right? And what they did was everything to serve the poor, the needy, to understand. So these guys, one was a psychologist, one was a medical doctor, one was a historian, one was a lawyer, one was a physicist and theologist, and one was an artist, mathematician, geometry, and a linguist, and taught me etymology, taught me Latin and Greek, right, and Hebrew. At least got it in my head. It took me another 15 years to really learn that shit. But anyway, but I had those guys from first grade until 3rd grade, because my mom and my godfather stuck me there to protect me from these wacko Catholics, right? And so that's why my whole life has been one of miraculous getting out of, somebody wanting to kill me's way, right? To the point where I got to this place where in the court of the king, you have the magician and you have the jester, and they're usually the same guy. They just have 2 different hats, right? And I have a hat that has 2 sides. It has this side with, the Christmas tree, and this side, not so much the Christmas tree. So that's me. And that's what those guys taught me. They taught me how to slow down and step back and get perspective. See the big picture of what's going on, so I can navigate, get out of harm's way, right? Get to 360. And I kind of learned that by 8, right? So when I went on the rest of my life, I was pretty good at staying out of harm's way, getting close enough to see what was going on, but not getting stepped on or punched. Now, there are a number of times, because I have these 3 rules that are like hardwired into me, that were given to me, because I remember being interuteral. And again, if you go to my blogspot, xrated.blogspot.com, one of my cuts is about that, right? And I have a lot of theologic things that I experienced, and I wrote it down. And that's only one of my 26 novels that I've written, and I am now writing another 6. I go down to the library and right away. So anyway, there you are. And I'm going to count from 1 to 3. And as we do this, you're going to go deeper and deeper into a state of conscious relaxation, where your whole avatar, your bag of water, the monkey in the metal cage of your Rolodex, totally asleep. You're on automatic pilot, right? and you're safe and secure. And if you have to wake up, I'll snap my fingers and you'll be right awake. But right now, you're going to now go real deep into your Akashic record. So you're sitting down, you got your reading table, the light, your guides. You sit down at your reading chair, and your librarian brings your Akashic record. You open it up, and there are 2 blank pages. Take your right hand, put it on the right page. Left hand, left hand. And you lean into your Akashic record, and you eliminate, you evacuate all of the anger, all of the hate, all of the fear, all of the anxiety, all of the self-loathing, all of the wanting other people's stuff, and that sense of need. I need this, I need this, I need this, because that sense of want and need are the hook of the addiction of the material world. When you can set yourself free of that. And now this is what I want you to visualize, right? So you're there. 1, you're in a deep, 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 deep state of conscious relaxation. You have illuminated yourself with your breath, and you have taken the illumination of your cell of life, that gift that is love's co-creation. We are given this gift of life, and the gift to God is what we do with it, right? And being a mercenary of finance is not, the reason why we're here. To be, the sadist of materialism is not why we're here. To be addicted to all of the physical illusions of Luciferian materialism is not why we're here. We are here to unconditionally love and forgive all our relations and ourselves, and realize that we are that pebble in the pond of what love's co-creation is. Love, which is God, which is the great prime creator, whatever you want to call it, wants to co-create with us. That's why the great maker is here with us, is to co-create, not to punish us, not to own us, not to do any of those things that the books say. And those books are just comic books. Now they come from other books that come from other books that come from other books that deal with the hegemony and of the demigods, etc., that are 1 billion years old. But our little story has been around for longer than that. So to believe in any belief structure, all religions are just business plans, right? Now, a lot of folk might get pissed off about that, but, I spent a lot of time talking to theologians, and pretty famous ones like Jerry Falwell was a good buddy of mine. I used to live in Lynchburg, and I met him, and we started talking, and Jerry was a smart guy, but he was a businessman first and foremost, and he made himself an empire, made himself really rich, but he knew his Bible, and he did that as a scam. But when he got to a certain point, and he realized what he had done with, his involvement with politics and banking and war and a lot of other things, he said, oops, and he tried to make amends. And the last 10 years or so, he tried to make amends. But he basically committed suicide because he built himself a diner called Doc's. And he did what I did the 10 years before I died for the last time. He ate until he nearly exploded. And that's what he did. But he was you go look at the videos of him. He stopped really going up there because he was just so freaking big. And that's when his sons kind of took over the empire. But I met him just when he was when he was like, oops. And that last 10 or so years we were friends, and he built that diner, and he said, I'm always here between 9:30 and noon, or noon 30, and if you're around, come on by and have breakfast. And I would, that's my favorite meal of the day is breakfast, and I would go and hang and talk with Jerry, and he liked talking to me because I knew a lot of books, and he did too, and we talked about things that nobody else talked about. And he liked talking to me because he knew that I did not tell stories about him until, he's like been dead a way long now. And I only speak the best of Jerry Falwell because at his core, he was a great and good, kind, noble, gracious man. He was led astray by materialism, and that's what happened. That's what Lucifer does: takes people like that and gives them temptation. And but at a certain point, he said, "Oops," and he did his best in his own way to make amends. And one of them was that he had pleasure of just talking to me, which was really great. I got a free breakfast out of him and a friend, right? But I did not go to any like his funeral or I just would hang with him at his diner because he had this room, corner in that diner that was his. He held court, but nobody would really go there. So I would. Like I said, breakfast is my favorite meal of the day. And so he was a great man. So we talked. He was way more knowledgeable theologically than most people took him for. Because a lot of people just thought he was a windbag, but he wasn't. And the other guy that was pretty well known was, what's his name? Billy Graham. Because I lived in Asheville, North Carolina, and he had his retreat, between Asheville and Black Mountain. And on the other, he sold the other side of his mountain to the Ku Klux Klan and the American Nazi Party. So he shared this mountain with those guys. And 2 mountains over was a friend of mine who, there's a guy in the 40s who started seeing aliens in California and this place called Big Rock, right? And had a little landing strip, and there was an air club there, and this guy owned 100 acres around this Big Rock. And he had a house that was underneath that he dug under the Big Rock, and the aliens would show up in that house underneath there. And they would, have meetings in front of or on top of the Big Rock. And they showed him a device called a Tabistron. And it was a kind of Tesla, multi-dimensional kind of thing to heal people, and it was basically made out of wood and wire and kind of looked like a kite. And so if you were to Google UFO Big Rock, California, this would all come up. And bottom line was, there, Billy Graham, I met him because of that place. And he came over one day, and me and a couple other guys were kind of, working on it in a Tesla kind of way. And it wasn't, like I said, it was just a couple of hills over from Billy's place. And I met him there, but very tangentially, right? I looked like a technician, I didn't get involved with him and Jim, right? But a few months later, so I was a contract boy, and like I said, I had a pretty big toolbox. I did a lot of different things, and as a scholar, I went off and did scholarly things on projects. And if you go look at my xratted.blogspot.com, there are a lot of stories about that. And if you go look at the 600 or so stories, there's way a lot of stories about all those kind of things. Anyway. So I would fly out of, the Asheville airport and, go to Charlotte or wherever I was going to go to get another airplane to go to someplace else. And in a 3-year period, I just happened to get on the airplane with Billy Graham 12 times, you know, and that flight it was like 11 something flight. And it wasn't really a busy, the early morning one and the late one was usually full up, but the one at 11 and the one at, 5 or 6, half full, if that. And they only did it because they had to keep that gate open for that airline and be the only airline to fly out of there. Anyway, so I take that 11 flight, because if you took that 11 a.m. flight, went to Charlotte to whatever connecting flight, it was quick. You didn't have to wait around. Anyway, so I got on that airplane with Billy Graham 12 different times. And what I liked about him was the first time I saw him, kind of recognized him. He's a pretty tall guy. And he just had jeans, cowboy boots, a denim shirt, and a nice little cowboy hat. Or he always kind of wore not a hat like this. Anyway, and we'd get on, in the lounge, we get our boarding passes and we sit there for anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour and we talk, right? And then when we get on the airplane, we'd ask, after the first time, he'd say, can this guy sit with me? And they'd say, oh, Dr. Graham, sure. And so those 12 times, I would I'd talk to Billy, in the lounge and then on the airplane to Charlotte. And pretty much that was what we did every time, which was about a 40-minute airplane ride, give or take. Anyway, so I got to talk to him a lot. By this, and I always have a book that I'm reading, right? And I remember the first time, I sat, and I noticed who it was, but I didn't, I just kind of sat, not like right next to him, but there was like 10 chairs in the thing of that lounge, and I sat in the line of that chair, it's like 2 chairs away, and I would always have a bag of books and my ubiquitous, what I always have, my composition books, and a book, either a book written by a friend or a book that pegged my interest, like this book here, The Science of the Mind. Anyway, so, the first day, I had like a bag, like a shopping bag full of books and journals and my composition books. And I'd be there and writing away and, reading. And he, I didn't say anything to him, but I was like, anyway. And after about 5 minutes, he said, so what book are you reading? And I said, here. And he looked thumb through and he goes, wow, this is, we start talking about stuff. And whenever I read a book, I annotize, meaning I dogleg, because I buy the book, I dogleg, I underline, and so the interesting parts, and he would go, wow, that's the part I'd underline. Wow. And so the first time he did that, we talked to that. Then we got on the airplane and we started talking about interesting stuff. And he said, right off the bat, when we got on the airplane, and because I got up and we walked and we talked, and he looked at me and goes, have I met you someplace? I said, yes, we have met, but very tangentially. And he goes, it's an interesting word. I said, well, think about it. And then he thinks about it. He goes, you're the guy at Jim's Weird Machine. I said, that's right. And I go, so do you ever, go in there when we turn it on? Do you ever experience that? And he goes, well, part of me wants to. And Jim, I like Jim a lot. And he's kind of like you, a really well-read guy, been around and knows a lot of stuff. And he never pushes what he knows onto me. We just have great conversations. And I love that, right? Anyway, so for the 12 times we did that. And by about the 6th time, he said, okay, when you get back, I'm going to call Jim, and then he'll call you, and then I'm going to come down and we're going to see what that machine does. And he had cancer at the time, and he got it, and and he was like thinking about chemo, what should I do? And I said, A, start praying. He said, well, I'm already doing that. I said, B, try Jim's machine out. What do you got to lose? And then if it doesn't, and then go get a test and see what they say. And if they say it's worse, or it's, not any worse, or it's getting better, then, you might try the machine again. Anyway, long story short, he went into remission for at least 20 years. I'm sure he had gone back to Jim a few times. But anyway, I talked to Billy Graham, for 12 times. And again, he was a guy that I always saw either at gyms or on an airplane. I never went up to his whoop-de-doo, and I never, went to any of his anythings, right? Because I wouldn't fit in. And he wouldn't feel comfortable. But he was very comfortable on that airplane when there's nobody else on that airplane except him and me and a few other people sitting on the back, not knowing really he's Billy Graham. And the same thing with Jerry. I used to call him Jerry, not Dr. Forwell or, after we started, I used to first call him Rev. And then once I would come for breakfast pretty regularly, he said, just call me Jerry. I said, no problem. Anyway, those people were righteous and they understood a deeper understanding, yet they were swayed by the illusion of the power of their position, right? But at a certain point, what's his name's Billy Graham's last book was kind of almost Eastern philosophy, and then when he got really sick, his son took it and rewrote it and said, no, this is really what he meant. And it was like really ridiculous. So that's where we are, right? And I want you to visualize this. I want you to visualize all of that illusion, right? All of those things that you just put in your Akashic record. Look down at them. See how dark, how icky, like tar they are. And you close the book, and they're no longer attached to you. They're no longer pulling at you, right? And I want you to see, open the book, and now on those 2 pages are one big screen with 28 little screens around it. And what you're seeing on the big screen is a stream, right, in a forest with the light of the sun, Jesus Christ coming through that photonic light without shadows, right? And it's shining on the water, and it's all crystally, and it's all vibrant, and it's just like your mitochondria when you looked at your cell going through mitosis, right? And floating down that stream is a leaf. And you want to grab that leaf. That leaf is beautiful. That leaf is drawing you, but it is the illusion of Lucifer. And what you have to do is just observe the leaf in front of you. Don't look at it coming. Don't have anticipation for coming, but just when it's right in front of you. And then when it goes away, don't view it as longing for anything. It's just when it's right in front of you, because when it's right in front of you, you can see with, love's co-creation, love's love of light of Jesus Christ shining on that. You can see all the edges of that leaf. You can see the illusion of that leaf, but you can also see that Lucifer is one of love's creations. And that the real essence of what we're doing here, what we are is that little pebble of love's co-creation into the pond of all our relations. We have to be collectively, all of us, love's co-creation. And when we are all together collectively, that's when we can pop the bubble of the Luciferian illusion of this material world. We can get on love's bus and go home to where we are within. And everyone gets to go home, not just the chosen few. Everyone else has to go to hell. We are in hell right here. This is friggin' hell. We are like Daffy Donald Duck, devil on one shoulder, angel on the other. And what it's about is being our better angel. And every day in every way, we take that piece of the earth and we make it stronger. See it clearly. And so you have illuminated yourself by breathing in the prana, by breathing 20% in. Your avatar is totally at sleep, totally on remote control, totally on automatic pilot, and you're safe and secure. Your avatar is safe and secure, but your conscious free will has ascended into your Akashic record, and you are seeing on the screen that right from this moment to the next 18 months. And in those 28 little TV screens, that instead of just seeing everything flat on, you're seeing it from 28 different perspectives, 28 different directions, 28 different people's experience. When you think about something you've done with somebody, it's not just you. You will see how it affected them, how they affected this person, how that person affected this person, and how you were the primary cause of all these people's whatever, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. And the more we can understand the cause and effect we have within the illusion, we can understand how to navigate it and how to be love's co-creation without being corrupted by the Luciferian illusion. See it clearly. And so you're looking at the big screen and you're seeing it go off into the next 18 months. And in those 28 screens, it's like click, 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 click. And you're seeing each day of those 18 months and what's happening and who's doing what. And a way to get a perspective on that is turn, just like I put this up here and you see it backwards, right? That's, you're seeing backwards the science of mind. So if you took this image from your screen and you put a mirror there, you would see it the right way, right? So you're looking at those 18 months, look at it from the other side of the screen and look 18 months that way, all the way back to when Barack Obama, brought more guys into Afghanistan, when they started bombing Yemen, when they started putting the screws on Venezuela, when you saw what was going on to, all of the heroes that have been given summarily, dishonorable discharges because they were, sent off into war 10 times until they broke, and then they hit their lieutenant or screamed at somebody, and then they got, they have a little box full of Purple Hearts and silver stars, and yet they were given, thrown under the bus because, the powers that don't belong didn't want to take care of them. It cost too much money. They wanted to put those billions in their own pocket, and more of our heroes have committed suicide since 2003 when we went into Iraq, and today then died, 58,000 plus died in Vietnam. Over 150,000 plus have committed suicide after coming back from serving our country as heroes. And they weren't there to protect us or to, hold any constitutional thing. They were there to get, Wall Street's money, Why'd we go into Iraq? Because Saddam Hussein said, hey, I want golden dinars, not treasury notes. Why'd we go into Afghanistan? Is because the Taliban had stopped the production of poppy and opium and heroin. And the CIA wanted that started back up. And they also wanted to put a pipeline through so the Russians wouldn't, Why did we go into Libya? Because Muammar Gaddafi was taking care of his people and was too much of an example of what you could do. And again, he was somebody who, as long as he took the treasury bonds, it was fine. But once he didn't want to take our paper and useless paper for and that's what China's done for the last, 30 years, has given us a ton of stuff that, for useless treasury notes. So now they're going, screw this, we're not doing it. And that's why we're getting, we might go to war with China. The same thing with Russia. Russia tried to put together the BRIC, which was a different economic system that wasn't Rothschild And again, the whole pyramid scheme, the whole, Mr. H's eye is the foundation is the expendables, us. We're useless eaters. We are the chattel that they throw into the great, the sacrificial meat grinder, right? Then there's the worker drones. Oh, you mean the guys who work in fact? No, the worker drones are the lawyers, the doctors, the judges, the politicians. They're the worker drones, right? Then you have the manager class. Oh, who are those guys? Those guys are the people, the billionaires, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the DuPonts, the Carnegies, all of those guys, the old wealth. And then, what I call the poster boys, the Silicon Valley billionaires. And then there's the ownership class. And the ownership class are people like this guy. People you don't even know exist. Just like in the book and the movie Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe, and who was in control but white mice, rats, DT here, not Donald Trump, not it, all the politicians. Donald Trump isn't any more corrupt than anybody else, he's just a hired, he's still, they got a wire in that poor boy's head. And he's just been hired to be the scapegoat, and to be the last voted in president, because the next guy in line is Mike Pence, who is like, haven't you noticed how much Mike Pence looked like Donald Sutherland in the Hunger Games? I mean, that's where we're headed, kids. We have 18 months to change this. And there is a great opportunity, greater than there's been in over 1 billion years, where the folk, us, all our relations, the cadre, the chorus, the shot troops of love's co-creation, can through love, not through anger, not through hate, not through, what do we want now? No. We live by example. That's what we do. We live by example. I'm a homeless guy. I live on $300 a month, but I live like a millionaire, because I go out there every day. John stays here, never goes out, doesn't even go outside to walk up on the hill. Is beautiful. We've had 3 glorious weeks of unbelievable, beautiful weather. And, I go down, I go to the library, work on my, our library is great. It has a nice restaurant in it. It only took 2,000 years to realize to put a restaurant in. And you get a very nice meal for under $8, coffee and a nice meal, like a salad or sandwich. And that's my one meal of the day. I make John breakfast and I have that meal, or I make John breakfast and I don't eat anything. And then I make John dinner and I eat that. I have 2 meals a day. And that's why I keep, I lost 180 pounds from being Gorgo, and I had to be able to walk and still be alive. But since last September, I lost 23 pounds, as of March 15th. From March 15th until last Monday, I lost 1 pound. Didn't gain anything back, but I lost a pound. And as long as I just keep losing a pound here and a pound there, I don't have to go on any special diet. I just don't eat that much because I don't have that much money. Whatever I buy in food, I give half of it to John, right? So anyway, when I go downtown, I always bump into people who need someone to listen. No one listens to them, right? People tell them what they should be doing or this or that, and they need someone to listen. So I listen, And at the library, I've been, at that library for a good, since it opened, 6 years. And the librarian has put circles of chairs, really comfy chairs, like the ones I described near the fireplace. And they're there for me to sit down there, and there's another 6 or so chairs around it. And people come and we have conversation, and there we can talk without anyone going shh, shh. You can, and you actually can eat food there, right? And one of those circles is near the coffee shop, and the other one's upstairs. And so I work on the computers. That's where I write, because it has word perfect in the computers, and I can just stick a thumb drive in there and write my novels. And people will come by and go, "Can I talk to you?" And I say, "Sure, I need a break," and I'll go over to that circle and drink some water or coffee and listen to them, and then give them a comment or tell them a story, because that's what a griot does, right? So you're looking 18 months from back and 18 months in the future, and you're seeing all the things you've done and all the thing that's going on, and what you need to do, right? So what does John say? Wow, that is amazing. You met Jerry Falwell. Not only met Jerry Falwell, he was a friend. And if you go to, look at the videos, there's a story on how I met Jerry, which is a really great story. And I'll tell it another time, because it would probably take another hour. Well, I'll make it short. I was living in Lynchburg. I lived above this restaurant. That was a buddy of mine owned the building, was a plumber. We fixed it up. He let me stay in this apartment for as much as I wanted to. And then next to it was a massage school, and I taught Eastern medicine there. And downstairs was a restaurant, like a bar. And he kept it, and people would rent it from him. I got this idea. I want to have a nightclub. I want to do a comedy. I want to do this. I want to do that. And people would do it for like anywhere from 3 months to 6 months. And they'd have to pay the rent, the electric bill, this, buy all the booze, buy everything. And he would take a percentage of what they think, plus rent, plus this, plus that. And he didn't have to do anything, right? And I used to go down there and, do readings, cards and palms and everything else. And no matter who was in there, I would do it, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That was like my entertainment. I met people and did stuff, right? And down the street and on the main drag of Lynchburg, there's a Holiday Inn, very nice one, very nice restaurant, and a suites on the top with a swimming pool up there. And back in those days, in like 2000, it was about 2000, 1999 and 2000. And you could get a suite with a jacuzzi in it, with a door that opened out to the swimming pool for like $55, right? And I would do it every frigging weekend. And they had a weekend package for $100. You got a Friday dinner, a Saturday breakfast, and Saturday dinner, and Sunday brunch was in Virginia is a big whoop-de-doo. So you got like 4 meals and the suite for Friday night, Saturday night, you left Sunday, right? For $100. And I would make pretty much on the average $100 to $200 in your reading palms in that bar. So I would, walk from my apartment upstairs, downstairs around 4, get a drink and maybe a nosh and be there until 8, and then stroll down, and I will have already checked in to the hotel that Friday afternoon. And because it was a constant thing, they had my credit card on thing. And so unless I called them up and say, hey, I'm not going to be there, they had a room, right? If I didn't show up, they didn't charge me, but they'd have that nice suite. Anyway, so, and as the different, this guy who wanted to do that, and this woman, most people don't realize there is quite a large gay and alternative community in Lynchburg. Half the, Baptist dudes there are buggering somebody, and I won't mention any names. And anyway, so and Jerry by this time has got LU going, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And so I am down in that pub, and this woman has turned that pub into a down low lesbian bar. There are all these really kind of, sorority type of girls and girls in lumberjack shirts, and kind of muscular. And, that was what was going on. And other people would stroll in, but it was like people just couldn't, they didn't see what they didn't want to see. And the girls weren't like, oh, let me, they weren't swapping spit there, but they were having a nice time and playing pool and, drinking, and then they'd go off and do their thing. But it was a place where that community could gather relatively safely. Right downtown. Anyway, so I'm there, and the girls really love it. So once that was being there, I was actually making twice what I was normally making when it was this guy doing the comedy thing and this guy doing the this and the that. This girl, that bar was actually the most profitable one of all the ones that tried to do it while I lived there for about a year and a half. Anyway, so I'm there, and I'd show up, and I would do my thing, and then 8:00 I would stroll, to the Holiday Inn and have dinner, because they had dinner until 10 on Friday, and they had a really great lobster kind of all-you-can-eat thing on Friday, and steak, roast beef, all you could eat was Saturday, and then the Sunday brunch was off the hook, and all the churchy people would come in on that. So anyway, and I had my, so I'd make money, and I would tip everyone $10, and that was, the guy, when I would go in and get my key, give him $10. They'd have a guy carry your bags, but most people wouldn't do it. I'd say, here, I would have a little bag, and he sure? I say, give him $10. They had a guy who was a concierge. I'd just pass by and give him $10. And he would go down. I like cigars. He would go down to the smoke shop and get me 2 nice cigars, and I give him $10. He probably spent $2 on the cigars, and I give him the $10. So I did that for everyone there. People who worked in the restaurant, if the chef was cutting, the roast beef, I'd stick to, so everyone there, for a year and a half, like clockwork, unless I was working or someplace else, I would go to this place, and this was my ritual. And I would share that wealth, because the more you share wealth, the more you get back. Big time. Anyway, so I know that rule. And so, like today, I, had all of like $3 in my pocket, and I saw this homeless person on the side of the road, and I gave them all $3, because I knew that I would find whatever I needed in my car. I have the magic car. I just kind of need $20. I go between the seats. There it is. And so anyway, I'm doing this, and I'm at the bar, and, it's getting to be 6, 7 o'clock, and the girls are in, and they're drinking their cocktails and playing pool. And these guys come in from LU, Liberty University, these 2, 3 guys. And they come in, and these women are quite attractive, and they're like leaning over and exposing parts of themselves while they're playing pool. And these aren't the lumberjack girls. These are like the sorority kind of girls. And so these guys, are like, whoa, yeah. And, they aren't like being the Christians. They're letting the lust in their heart go crazy. Anyway, so the guys goes, hey, girls, can we play pool with you, And the girls go, sure, we'll play round robin. And the guy goes, what's round robin? It's teams, you 3 guys and us. And, one of us will go first, one girl goes first, and then a guy, and then a girl, and then a guy, and then a girl, and we'll all play pool together. So they do, and they, kind of do pretty good, but the girls win, but not by much. The guys almost, So anyway, one of the guys goes, well, you girls play pretty good. You want to play for money? And the girls go, sure. And the guy goes, well, what do you want to play for? And the girl says, well, we'll play teams, just like we're playing here, and $100 a game. And if we lose, we'll have sex with you. And if you lose, you give us $100. So, they play, and the girls just shut them down, just like, and they're like, and then the girls get a little more, like, show a little more, when they're leaning over the thing, they're showing more and more. And so the guys are starting, oh, that was a fluke, let's do it another. Sure, we'll do another one. This time, though, $200 for this game, and we'll give you sex. We'll all have sex with you 2 times, with all of you. Okay, yeah, okay. So these guys, okay, we're going to get serious about this. And these girls, the guys don't even get to hit a ball. These girls just pulverize them. These morons go for a third, $300, right? So that's 100, $600 they took from these guys. And the guys go up because they went across the street to the, the cash machine. And, the 4th time, the machine wouldn't give them any money. So they had to go home. Anyway, and I'm sitting there just laughing up the storm. And they're looking at me. And I have a table with a tablecloth that has half moons and stars. And I have a crystal ball. And I have a magic hat. And I have my, cards. And I have a bunch of books. And I have my runes, and I have the Bible, right? Because I have the Bible there because I know the Bible relatively well, seeing that I, went to school to be a Catholic priest, and then I went to school to be a Jewish rabbi. So I and learned Hebrew and Greek and Roman, Latin. So I kind of, studied theology for a good 6 years. So, I kind of have a cursory knowledge of the Bible, so much so I do not quote it like, oh, John, I will go to the thing and read the book, and that's what you're supposed to do. Anyway, so these guys look at me each time when they came in, they looked at me, I'm just sitting there, right? They watch the girls play, they do this, they get $100 lost, right? And then they go to the cash machine, lose $200. And 3rd time, I am laughing, right? Just laughing, just out loud. You guys, I can't believe it. Anyway, they go out basically crying. And they go off, right? And because they kind of were gonna like tell the sorority girls that they were cheating, and that's when the sorority girls' girlfriends, the lumberjacks, came in and basically said, you boys better leave or we will really embarrass you. And that's when they went, ooh, and ran out. Right. So the girls start drinking and just hooting it up and having the best. This was like the best. And they get really pretty drunk. And so the sorority girls and the lumberjacks are starting making out and humping each other on the pool tables. And the lady who ran it, who I knew because I lived upstairs and I've been there since she started it, she goes to me, Al, you got to get these girls out of here. If anyone were to walk in or drive, she closes the door, locks it. Anyone comes here, and just looks in the window, ooh, the jig is up. And I say, fine, And so I go, girls, come on. Don't you want to go swimming? Go in the jacuzzi? And the girls go, yeah. I said, let's get, because they knew I, had the suite at the top of the Holiday Inn and the pool up there. So, one of the things to motivate the girls to go out, the lady who is running the bar gives us a couple of bottles of booze, and we go up there, right? So, there's about, I don't know, maybe 6 of them. And so they're laughing, they're giggling, but they're all, it looks just like, 6 girls and me, right? And we walk the 3 blocks, we go through the lobby, and actually I took the side door in, not the main lobby, but the side door, got straight to the elevators, went straight upstairs, and I was tired, So I said, go ahead, slid the door open, go have a good time, girls. And I went straight to sleep, right? Slept, and it was like maybe when we got there, maybe 11. Didn't watch any TV. I just took a shower, lied in the jacuzzi for a little bit, and then went straight to bed. So around, I don't know, 6 a.m, the phone rings, brings freaking Sunday morning. But yeah, what is it? Al, you got to get those girls out of the pool. So what are you talking about? What girls? And I totally forgot about the girls. Because those girls who are naked who are in the pool. I said, what girls are naked? Those girls you came back with, they're naked in the pool. They've been there and they've been, you can't believe the things they're doing. I said, he goes, and I made a video because they had security cameras. So he's freaking made a video of the girls just having them, just whoa, off the hook, right? Because they had each like a bottle of booze. And he goes, you got to get them out. The churchy people will be here in about an hour and a half. They can't be in that place. They've got to be gone. And I say, okay, this is what you got to do. You got to send up like an urn of coffee and a thing of eggs and, some of your nicer pastries and some sausage and bacon and, breakfast, right? Okay, no problem. We'll bring, I'll be up there and have the, I'll be up there because he wanted like leer at the women at the naked. Anyway, so he comes up, he rolls in the stuff. I go get the girls. I go get the girls before he shows up and, get them in the bathroom to take a shower. And, they come out, we drink all the coffee, eat all the breakfast. They're still laughing, but they're not as drunk as they were when they showed up, boy. And they had the best of times. I mean, and I went down, as a patron saint of the alternative crew because, I'm none of those letters, right? Now I have a lot of friends who are, and I don't care. That's whatever they want to do. That's, I have a whole idea of it's not a sin. It's just who they are. Anyway, so everyone gets away with it. Nobody gets in trouble. Everything's fine. Everyone's happy. The security guy, I go visit him before I walk home. I said, listen, whatever tape you made, do not show that to anybody. You'll get in more trouble than the girls, right? He goes, I know. I said, no. You should like give it to me or set it on fire. Just never let anyone see that. So he goes, okay, you take it. And I trust you. And when I want to watch it, I can come over to your place. I said, well, I don't have a VCR, but sure, you can come over to my place. Anyway, so I basically get rid of it. So next weekend, I am back at that place, and it's a Friday evening, right? And I'm sitting there, and it's early, the crowd hasn't showed up. There's nobody there yet. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, who frickin' walks in the door but Jerry frickin' Falwell? And these two guys who look like they got big, bulky. You can see a thing under the thing, and they got the thing in their ear, and they got sunglasses, and it's getting dark outside. And I look at him, and I just go back to my book, and he goes, "So I've been told that you're the devil." And I look up at him, and I go, "Really? So I've been told that you're Jerry Falwell." And he laughs. He goes, "Yeah, I'm Jerry Falwell." I go, "Well, why don't you sit down? Let's talk. We'll be like Job." He goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "What's this, Jerry?" And that's when I started, "Jerry, come on. The story of Job? What's the story of Job? The devil and God hanging out, having a beer together, God going, 'Look at my man Job, isn't he cool? He'll do whatever I want him.' And the devil goes, 'Yeah, sure, you give him everything. Take some of that shit away. Make his life tough. See what he does. He'll curse you.' I said, 'That's like us, Jerry. Have a seat.' So he sits down and he looks at the Bible. He goes, 'You have the Bible here. Why do you have the Bible here?' I said, 'Well, because I read the Bible, Jerry.' And he goes, 'Really?' And I said, 'Yeah. Open that book.' And he opens it up, and it's like all the pages are, I've been reading that book. It's underlined. It's got all kinds of colors, little pieces of tape everywhere, a little piece of paper in there with ideas written on them. And he goes, 'Whoa, you really do read this?' I said, 'Yeah, I've had this book a long time.' And he goes, 'So I heard that.' I said, 'Jerry, I'm not the devil.' And he goes, I said, 'Look,' put my hand on the Bible. I said, 'The only thing in my heart is Jesus Christ. Now, if I was the devil, I'd, turn into flame by your book. And he starts to laugh. And so we start like that, talking about theology. And the more we talk, the more he goes, whoa. And by the end of that conversation, he goes, you should teach in my school. I said, forget that, Jerry. Your people would set me on fire. No, I can be your friend. You can come here anytime you want. He goes, no. I can't come here anymore. This is a house of ill repute. I said, no, these are nice people, Jerry. Come on, you know better. And he goes, well, I'm going to build this diner on the campus just off of 460. Come up there once it's open. Come by. I'll be there every breakfast, from like 7 in the morning till 12:30. Come. I'd love to talk to you. So I did for about 3 years. First year and a half when I lived in Lynchburg, I was there quite, at least 2 or 3 times a month, if not more. And especially at a certain period, I think I was almost there 3 times a week because he'd buy breakfast. It was his place, Jerry's. Oh no, it's called Doc's. Right? Anyway, so that's how I met Jerry Falwell, and we became really good friends. And that's what people are. Good friends. And people that we may say we hate or don't like are just good friends we don't know. And these next 18 months, what you need to do is every day in every way, as you walk out to work, to go to the supermarket, to go to wherever you're going, meet new friends. Be there to listen. Don't grasp for that leaf, because when you jump into that stream to get that beautiful leaf, you're going to get all wet, all muddy, you'll fall down, you'll get totally cold, get pneumonia, die. No, you just watch that thing, that bit of Luciferian, oh, don't you want this? Don't you want this? Don't you want that need? Right? You just let it go. Right? And all of those, all those really bad thoughts you have, all those, that person, oh, I hate that person, oh, I need this, I want that. Just let it go. How am I going to pay my bills? Oh, what am I going to do? Well, let it go. Right? Okay, let's see here. Stacy, don't worry. It's going to be. I'm going to wear like 3 pairs of glasses to read this stuff. Thought was going to be inappropriate, but we got to go now. But thank you for your awesome time, and we hope you have a lovely night. Stacy, stay in contact. Buddy, buffering? I'm buffering? Doesn't look like I am. But let's see. Could get a shout out to me. Jackson sitting here watching you with me. Hey, Jackson. Let's see. Is there going to come a time where we will live in harmony? We are in that time where we're living in harmony. Just do it. And don't see others as the other. Others are you. You are the other. He's 9. Yeah, so accessible. Yep. Ayers Rock is such a bizarre place that it blew people's minds. I mean, when you can walk up the side of the mountain because it has its own, they have these metal bars drilled into the rock with a chain. But you can stand on the side. Here's the wall here, and you're standing like this. And yes, you can walk up holding the chain, but you don't have to. When I walked up that thing, I was with a crowd, and there were these 4 people who were in disco clothes, with the big heels. It was very. My wife took some interesting photos of that. Yeah, they made it into the business plan. Yep, this is true. Wi-Fi, it's just. But again, it's illusion. If you put love's co-creation in your heart, none of this shit can. I mean, look at me. Died 6 times. I was so toxed out from my hedonist life of 10 years. I was glowing. So, and I can walk. I can breathe. I wiggle like a reptile. So it's been 2 hours, 31 minutes, and 35 seconds. So I'm going to say goodnight. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to take you back now. 3, 2, 1. You're now in your body. You're now in your avatar. You've seen all of this. Remember all of this. Go into state at least 5 times just by breathing 20% and out 30. Illuminate yourself. See it clearly. And 2, you're walking from your imaginary mirror into your avatar. You're getting up, you're stretching, you're in your body now. You're right back here. And 1, you're totally conscious, you're safe, secure. And 1, you're back in your life. And 1, you're back here now. Okay? So I'll talk to you tomorrow, Sunday. Maybe I'll do one during the day, and one definitely I'll try around 7:30. Okay, what time is it now? 10-ish. Ooh, look at that. We talked a while. Okay, gang. I love you guys.